Have you ever wondered what it takes to survive the end of the world? Well, it turns out the answer really depends on how deep your pockets are. Today, we are going on a journey through the wild world of survival bunkers, starting with a $1 death trap and ending up at a literal city carved inside a mountain. Okay, let's get into it. And yeah, the difference is, to put it mildly, extreme. On one end, you've got this glorified metal box that's already caving in. And on the other, a billion-dollar military fortress buried 2,000 feet under solid rock. So that's the spectrum we're covering today, and trust me, the journey from one to the other is, wow, it's wild. So let's start at the absolute bottom. What kind of doomsday protection can you get for just a single dollar? And as you can probably guess, the answer is not a whole lot. We're essentially talking about a shipping container that someone decided to bury. I mean, this quote really says it all, doesn't it? This $1 bunker was damp, the walls were already buckling from the pressure of the dirt, and yeah, it looked like it had been through a war before anything even happened. So no big surprise here, when it went up against an actual explosion, yeah, it didn't make it. Okay, leaving that $1 wreck in the dust, we're now jumping into a category that's a lot more serious and honestly a lot weirder. This is where you find everything from old military bases turned into homes to shelters built for actual U.S. presidents. All right, first big jump in price. We're going up to a cool $1 million. And for that kind of money, you're not just buying a shelter, you're buying a pretty wild piece of Cold War history. See, this isn't just a bunker. You're looking at a former nuclear missile silo. The main command center, where they would have gotten the launch orders, is suspended on 8 huge springs to absorb the shock of a nuclear blast. The guy who owns it now has turned this military relic into a fortified home, complete with a full kitchen and, get this, a private club for parties, 5 stories underground. Next up, for $3 million, we have a bunker tucked away under a completely normal-looking backyard shed. And its real value isn't just the concrete and steel. No, it's about what, and maybe more importantly, who is inside. So, the owner? He's a YouTuber and an inventor, and people have literally called him a real-life Tony Stark. He's basically turned his bunker into a personal museum for his own completely wild and frankly kind of terrifying inventions. For this guy, the bunker isn't just about hiding. It's about having the most insane arsenal on the block when the world goes sideways. And just take a look at the kind of stuff we're talking about here. There's a backpack flamethrower, a rocket launcher you wear on your wrist, and a cannon that can use pretty much anything as ammo, including bread rolls. He's even got a spinning belt of knives and something called a freezer wave. It's just an absolutely nuts collection that makes this one of the most unique shelters on the planet, for sure. All right, from a modern-day inventor, let's jump back in time for our $5 million bunker. This one, it's got a presidential history. That's right, this shelter was built for John F. Kennedy. Yep, that JFK. And you'd think it would be something incredible, right? But the reality is, well, it's kind of underwhelming. It's small, it smells a little weird, and honestly, today it's kind of falling apart. It's a really stark reminder of how our whole idea of survival has changed, from this grim, functional thing during the Cold War to something else entirely. Okay, now we are entering a totally different league, the stratosphere of private bunkers. This is where survival isn't just about, making it through. It's about living in total lavish comfort, completely cut off from whatever's happening up top. Let's take a look at what that kind of money buys. So what we've got here are 2 totally different ideas about what luxury survival even means. The $30 million option is basically a 15-story skyscraper built underground for 75 people. It's all about utilitarian luxury. It's got a hospital, a jail, even a sniper's nest. Super practical. But the $50 million bunker takes a completely different approach. It's all psychological. It's a fake neighborhood designed to trick you, with a house, fake grass, and palm trees, all to make you forget you're 3 stories deep. It is super bizarre, but you have to admit, it's a pretty clever way to deal with being stuck underground for a long, long time. So we've seen what private luxury can get you. But now we're going to the absolute pinnacle. A $1 billion government facility that's not just a bunker. It's basically an entire city, built to survive anything and everything. Okay, this is it. The Cheyenne Mountain Space Force Station. And no, this one is not for sale. This is a critical military command center. It's home to NORAD and Space Force, and its job is to defend all of North America. The whole point is, its security is on a level we haven't even come close to yet. And this slide breaks down exactly why it's so secure. First off, it's buried 2,000 feet under solid granite. You get in through this long tunnel that leads to a set of these massive 25-ton blast doors, built to take a direct nuclear hit. And then the entire complex of buildings inside the mountain, it's all sitting on these giant springs, so it can just ride out the shockwave from a nuke or an earthquake. It is, without a doubt, one of the most secure places on the entire planet.
And you can imagine the secrecy here is just intense. As one person who toured it said, at a certain point in the tour, you're literally told, I legally cannot show anything like that from here on out. You have to cover your cameras, and the detailed layouts are top secret. We're only getting the tiniest peek into a place that's wrapped in mystery for very good reasons.
And what's actually inside this mountain is just mind-blowing. It's got the battle deck, where NORAD keeps an eye out for any threats. It has its own power grid, a few underground lakes for fresh water, and even has roads wide enough for a fire truck to drive on. So many people work there that it has its own gym, a grocery store, and believe it or not, there's even a Subway restaurant in there. It's a completely self-sufficient city designed to keep things running no matter what. So, from a $1 shipping container all the way to a billion-dollar fortress inside a mountain, we've seen that survival comes in all shapes and sizes with very, very different price tags. So, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean? This chart really breaks it down nicely. At the bottom end, your money buys you basic and, let's be honest, pretty questionable shelter. Then you get to the multi-million-dollar range, where it's not just about safety anymore. It's about buying a way to continue your luxury lifestyle. But at the billion-dollar level, that's not for one person. That is all about national defense, the survival of a country's entire command and control system. And all of this kind of leaves us with one final big question. We've seen that you can slap a price tag on a bunker, on security, and even on underground palm trees. But when you strip all that away, what's the real value of survival itself? Something to think about. Anyway, thanks for diving into this one with me.